Welcome to FRCMedia News for Thursday, May 28th, 2020. I'm Keith Tebow. This week, local leaders held a televised town hall answering many of the questions on people's minds concerning the COVID-19 pandemic. The local unemployment picture came into focus this week, and although alarming, signs of reopening regionally are boosting local businesses' spirit. The Diocese of Fall River is getting set to resume in-person masses this weekend. We hear from Bishop Edgar Acuna, and we continue to profile our local food pantries that are making sure that we all continue to have food on our tables. We'll have all that coming up in just a few moments. As we head into the last week of May, there has been more discussion about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted our local community. Mayor Paul Coogan this week sponsored a virtual town hall meeting with the city's legislative delegation with topics contributed by local residents. During our weekly sit-down with the mayor this morning, he said it was important for the local political leaders to come together and show unity.
I want people to know that this is a team effort. It is locally with our public safety people, and on a state level, we depend on our legislators to help us with any issues related to COVID or anything else. I want people to know there's constant communication between myself and all four of the representatives, including three representatives and Senator Rodrigues. And I want people to know that as the way to get things done is to develop teamwork that'll tackle a deal. And if we did that town hall, I thought it went very well. Everybody got a chance to talk and speak about issues, and I went over well.
During the course of the town hall conversation, the panel said they sympathize with the frustration of local residents as to the pace at which our local and state economy are reopening.
I can go to Walmart, I can go to the liquor store, but I can't go to church. I can go to Walmart, but I can't go to the little store on Columbia Street. And she called me. She sells communion dresses and baptism. She has two people at a time going into her business with a mask. She can't accept them. So there's been lots of confusion over these locations. I am pleased that, and I don't know anyone who isn't, although there are some not pleased with opening. I think the sooner we open, the sooner our economy improves, the sooner we get kids to school, the sooner we resolve all of the issues that we have, but we have to open safely.
Among the other items under discussion as the state moves through the phases of reopening, how will it handle voting this fall? State Senator Michael Rodrigues says one option on the table is more people voting by mail.
Mail-in voting is nothing new. We have been doing absentee ballots for a long time. All of our soldiers, the men and women who serve our armed services, of course have the opportunity and the ability to vote, and they vote by absentee ballot, mail-in voting. We have very strict rules in our Constitution about who can take advantage of absentee voting. So we cannot change our Constitution, but we can amend the laws to make it easier for those residents who want to exercise the most important right as being an American, the right to vote, but are afraid to leave their house to go to a polling place to cast that vote. Thinking about the poll workers, the employees that are there, it's a very hands-on, they're checking paper, they're speaking to individuals. Many of them tend to be older, retired individuals who are very, very highly susceptible to the virus. It can happen. As a matter of fact, just this past Tuesday, a week ago today, right? Today, Tuesday?
Today's
I don't even know what
Tuesday.
day it is. A week ago today, we had two special elections in the Massachusetts State Senate, one in Plymouth and one out in central Western Mass in Westfield. In the Plymouth election, 44% of the votes cast were done by absentee ballots, by mail-in voting. It has worked. It can work. We are going to expand it. We want to ensure that every resident of Massachusetts has the ability to safely and confidentially vote come September and November.
The state last week disclosed that local high school graduations can now take place in person with restrictions if they are held after July 19th. The graduation at Durfee High School was set to take place virtually next month, but Mayor Coogan says that now has changed.
We ended up polling our seniors to see what their feeling was. Did they want to go forward with the virtual one the first week of June or postpone till that July date? And they overwhelmingly supported moving to the July date. So I can assure you the wheels are already turning on how we can do that and make it safe for everybody and give kids a graduation. We were always about making sure we honored the class of 2020. It was just the best way to do it and what was allowed under the guidelines from the state. So if that's the will of those kids, that's what we're going to follow. The community has stepped up tremendously with their contributions to the class of 2020, and I think we'll give them all a nice gift bag going out the door.
In providing an update on city finances as it relates to COVID-19, the mayor says he's hopeful the state and federal government will allow some flexibility in how it can spend $7.9 million in CARES Act funds to reimburse COVID-19 related expenses.
I spend a lot of my day working on COVID stuff. Everyone in this office works on COVID stuff. Our Board of Health, our Department of Health works on COVID things. Mary, our head financial officer, works on COVID things. Human resources, COVID issues, who's out sick, who's in, whatever. COVID overwhelms a lot of the departments in the city. Now, is that a legitimate cost to transfer to that $7.9 million? I think it is. We did get a little direction yesterday from Congressman Kennedy's office, and we're going to work on it again today. Their position is that it has to be COVID related. So I look at what's going on in the city of Fall River right now, taking down the basketball courts for our DPW. Is that COVID related? Closing down our bulky item pickup. Is that COVID related? Were all these things done because of COVID? So and I think you can make the leap very easily, that those were COVID expenses, then we should be able to use the federal money for those kind of things. If we can do that, we can offset some of the costs that some of the funds we're not getting back, whether it's parking meter revenue, whether it's marijuana revenue, car excise, property taxes. If we can do that, we may start to work our way out of the woods.
Back to the town hall, there was much discussion on how the stay-at-home orders have impacted what are called issues of society: drug and alcohol addiction, child and sexual abuse, and children falling through the cracks in schooling without in-person support. State Representative Carol Fiola tells us that because cases are not being reported does not mean that problems do not exist.
We're hearing that these things are escalating but not being reported. Alcoholism, drug addiction, mental health, child abuse, domestic violence. These are things we don't want to have to think about, but they're real. In a large community like Fall River, in a struggling at times socioeconomic community, we see this a lot in every facet of the community, but it's very worrisome to the state, to us in the legislature, that people aren't feeling as comfortable to report domestic violence and other issues. Although the courts are open for these things, if there's an issue, call the police. The police will get an emergency order. These things, Section 35s, when it comes to substance abuse, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to 51As for domestic violence, they are still being filed in the courts. Someone could walk into the lobby during business hours of the court and have the appropriate paperwork. They could use any language. There's abilities for translators there. So we hope people are taking advantage of that. STAR in our community has the domestic contract for the domestic violence work in our community, and they're a great resource. So it is scary. Child abuse, mandated reporters. Every day our children are sitting in the seats in front of educators. That's not happening right now. And it's hard to see it over the computer that there's a problem. And in many cases, these kids aren't in front of the computer with the educators. So it is worrisome. And, we're going to be tackling some of the aftermath. Not only Fall River, but all communities will be dealing with this.
We'll be back after we hear from the latest job opportunities from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center.
Here are some health-related job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Nursing Home Administrator, Crawford Health and Rehab Center, located at 273 Oak Grove Avenue, has an immediate need for a full-time nursing home administrator, responsible for the day-to-day clinical and administrative activities of the facility. Job number 135660000. Emergency Medicine Physician Assistant, Steward Medical Group, located at 1030 President Avenue, has an immediate need for a full-time emergency medicine physician assistant to perform bedside diagnostic therapeutic procedures and coordinate tests and consultations. Job number 1359182. Residential Clinician, Key Program Incorporated has an immediate need for a part-time residential clinician to provide clinical services to youth and families in the Fall River area. Job number 1356541. Southcoast Physicians Group, located at 300 Hanover Street, has an immediate need for these full and part-time positions. Hospitalist, job number 135-81124. ICU Registered Nurse, job number 135-86771. St. Anne's Hospital, located at 795 Middle Street, also has an immediate need for the following full and part-time positions. Registered Respiratory Therapist, job number 135-91753. Nursing Assistant, job number 135-91837. For more information on these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. We know that hundreds of local residents have lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic, and for the first time, we have an indication of exactly how many people are out of work. The State Department of Employment Assistance this week reported that Fall River's unemployment rate jumped fourfold to 24.1% in April. That's in comparison to a 5.7% rate in March and a 5.1% rate for April of last year. The state reports that over 9,500 Fall River residents were reported out of work last month. Also in comparison, New Bedford saw a slightly higher jobless rate of 24.4%, while Brockton was a bit lower at 21%. The Massachusetts rate for April sits at 15.9%. The national rate for April is 14.7%. Now, despite those numbers, more and more local businesses are beginning to reopen with restrictions as part of Governor Charlie Baker's approach to restarting the Massachusetts economy. One such proud business starting up this week is Hair in Motion in New Bedford, where owner Lily Fagundes says she has followed all the safety and cleaning protocols laid out by the state.
We have all the protocols in line. As soon as they walk in, they have to wash their hands. They have to have masks on. We take their temperatures, and then we sanitize before and after everything. And that's what we've been doing for every single client. And capes, it has to be disposable capes. Every single one has to have a different cape. And then we dispose of it. We have to throw it in the garbage. This is the protocol as of now.
Even though she is open primarily through appointments only, Fagundes says she is limited by the number of services she can provide to clients.
It's 1 hour. As long as you have a chemical service and they're there for 45 minutes to an hour, I cannot do people in between, because that was how I worked. That's how I was taught 34 years ago. You take in people in between. So I was doing up to 4 clients an hour. Now I only do 1 an hour if they have a chemical service, and if they just have a haircut, I'm really fast. They come, I do. For 15 minutes, I can do a haircut in 15 minutes.
Regardless of the restrictions, Fagundes says her team and her customers are thrilled that she's back in business.
I told all my staff they have to take the back whistle and the barber side. They had to take one of those tests for disinfectant and sanitation. They all took it. They all passed. And I was telling them, okay, we're going to open up Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. They said, Lily, we're ready. So when we call our clients, some of them were crying. They're like, oh my God, Lily, thank you, God. We need it. We look like Rapunzel, Groucho Marx, but we can't do waxing. We can't do waxing, nor the nail technicians cannot come in yet, nor the Botox ladies can't come in yet. And the massage therapists, that's in a different phase.
Places of worship are now allowed to offer in-person services as part of the governor's reopening plan. The Diocese of Fall River plans to offer in-person masses for the first time in 2 months, beginning this weekend. All parishes will be limited to only 40% of capacity, and parishioners will be required to wear masks and to sanitize upon entering each church. Social distancing protocols, including restricting access to every other pew, will also be enforced. The Most Reverend Edgar Acuna, Bishop of Fall River, says each individual parish will police its capacity and may require advance registration for masses.
Each parish is different sizes. They can accommodate different number of people. It's up to the pastor and the staff and the parishioners to find a way to control the crowd. The purpose of that is that if your capacity, the 40% with the social space in the 6 feet apart, all that, if they say, okay, we can safely accommodate 75 people here. Well, if 150 show up, then you're not gonna be able to accommodate them all. So you don't want to just turn people away. So this pre-registration is to know how many people you're going to have at each mass. But some feel that they are not going to have a bigger crowd to begin with, so they could easily accommodate without the pre-registration. So it depends on from parish to parish, and I'm leaving up to the pastors to determine that. There are ways of doing that too, through the internet. There's software that they can do that. People can do over the phone, calling the parish office, and we're all hoping that this works out well.
The bishop says another change during this reopening will be the distribution of Holy Communion.
First of all, we are asking people to receive communion in the hand, not on the tongue, as some people are used to, because this is a unique time and special time, and we want people to be willing to make some sacrifice, even though they feel comfortable receiving on the tongue and they're used to doing that. We are encouraging and asking them to receive on the hand because is a safer way to do it. And in my guidelines to the parishes, I left to the priest, to the pastor, to the celebrant, whether they distribute communion at the usual time during the Mass, or they can also distribute communion at the very end, after the final blessing and dismissal. People who are not receiving communion can exit the church, therefore you will be less people, and only those who will receive will remain, and then as they receive, they exit the church, so there is less agglomeration and crowding in one space.
Bishop Acuna says with parishes closed, their revenue stream has been impacted, and they will again need to be creative to accept that financial offering when masses resume.
During these last couple of months, many people changed the way they've been giving their donation to the church. Many began doing it online giving. Some of them just mailed the envelopes. Now that many are beginning to come to church, again, in order to avoid those contacts and people being close, the parish need to figure out a way and probably just have a basket at the entrance of the church where people drop the envelopes as they come in or as they exit, instead of the usual traditional way of taking the collection.
The diocese says those who are uneasy about returning to church or those with pre-existing medical conditions should continue to stay away. Many parishes will continue their practice of streaming masses to people's homes. If you have any questions concerning attending Mass this weekend, please contact your local parish. Over the course of the last few weeks, we've been giving you a look at some of the great work being done by our local food pantries, ensuring that no one in Fall River goes hungry. Our Denise Pumaguaye has our latest installment.
Every Wednesday and Friday, we have been preparing free meals to anyone in need in the city. So we do that every Wednesday and Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. They're what we call grab and go meals. Of course, we want to do this as safely as possible. So it's just really curbside, right outside of Good Shepherd Church. So you just drive up to the curb, let us know how many meals you need, and we hand them off to you. We've been consistently providing about 400 meals each time we do it. So 800 meals a week. We've been very grateful for a lot of wonderful partnerships that we've made with other people here in the city throughout all of this. District Attorney Tom Quinn's office stepped right up and offered to cover the expenses of one of those meals a week. The United Way of Greater Fall River, they've done two great things for us. One is they made a $10,000 contribution to our grab and go meals. And then the other thing, which we're beginning today, is they have, for a limited time, for I believe the next 5 weeks, they will be providing us with 150 boxes of fresh produce. So this is in a partnership with Sid Wainer and Son out of New Bedford. And we will be augmenting the fresh produce with some other non-perishable goods. So anybody who is experiencing food insecurity right now can come and receive one of those boxes. We also have made a partnership with a couple of local restaurants, Fall River Grill, Marzilli's Bakery, and we've also had some wonderful donations from TA Restaurant. Any donations that people want to make will help us continue to feed hungry here in our city.
We've been working with United Way of Greater Fall River and their efforts. We've been delivering food with them, packing food with them. We've been helping support some of the meals at the First Baptist Church. And we've also been helping coordinate deliveries of some food. We also have been doing a lot of funding in terms of helping backstop many of the food pantries and the work that they are doing. There are people already, have food pantries established that are doing great work. Our efforts are a lot better spent supporting their efforts than trying to kind of recreate the wheel for another door that people have to find. There's so many of them around the city, certainly St. Anne's and Gates of Hope, Rob Canavan up the street. So many of the churches are doing great stuff, and we've been in contact with all of them. We've supported them financially significantly, and we'll help them out all that we can.
We'll have more right after this.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Lucy. Lucy is a 4-year-old Chihuahua mix. She was an owner surrender. Lucy can be pretty nervous around new people, and she is not the biggest fan of leashes. Lucy is a sweet little girl who needs a quiet home and needs someone who will go very slow and who has a lot of patience. Lucy is going into foster, but if you're interested, you can give us a call and set up an appointment to see her. Lucy would do best in a quiet home with no kids. If you want to meet Lucy, come on down to Forever Paws Animal Shelter at 300 Linwood Street and say hi.
Hi guys, just giving you guys a heads up. It is starting to become kitten season, and we are getting little guys like this. Not all at once, they're kind of coming as the weeks progress. We're getting a few more. If you've been checking with us, or if it's your first time, just keep checking each week. It's always changing. We always have different animals. So just keep looking, and you can get a little cutie like this one at Forever Paws Animal Shelter. As it stands right now, during the virus, we are open every day except for Wednesday and Sunday, from 11 to 4. However, it is by appointment. So if you'd like to come down and see animals, you should call ahead of time and just save a spot so that you can come in and meet some of these guys.
Our Dinner Time With series continues this Friday at 6 p.m. as we'll bring you a performance by Mike Laureano. Check him out both on our Facebook page and right here on Channel 95 Friday at 6 p.m. That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. We invite you to check out our website, frmedia.org, for the latest news and information around COVID-19, as well as other news of note from FRC Media. You can watch this program Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Fridays at 5:30. For all of us here at FRC Media, I'm Keith Tebow. We leave you this week with a look back at this Monday's rolling Memorial Day Parade through downtown Fall River. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Thursday.